So one of the best tools to get up and running with Cerbos and really understand whether it will work for your authorization requirements is with the Cerbos Playground. Cerbos Playground at play.cerbos.dev is a completely online environment where you can build, test, experiment, and prototype policies directly in your browser without having to deploy anything or run anything on your system. When you land on the playground, you have a few different options. You can start off by going and creating a whole blank instance, but we've also preloaded it with examples of common use cases of how users use Cerbos and common policies that they've set up and defined inside of their systems, and kind of gives you a jumping off point to start evolving it into your requirements. So for this, I'm actually going to go into our expenses system, which kind of is a basic policy for defining an API that's basically for managing expenses inside of a company. So when you land on the playground, you got a few different sections here. Hopefully it's not too dissimilar to what you're used to in your IDE of choice, but we have our files list, so all the different policy files, configuration files, tests, schemas, etc. It's all available right here. The center is obviously our editor, and on the right-hand side, we have our kind of test examples. So we've got predefined some example users or principals. We've predefined some example resources, as well as their attributes. So you can actually see the data structure that your application will be passing to Cerbos when it does permission checks. And then below it, we actually give you that live feedback of exactly what permissions are allowed or denied based on the current users. So just as by way of example, if I actually go and change and pretend to be a different principal or a different user trying to access the system, as I'm changing who I am, hopefully you're seeing down here below, each of the actions for in this case, the expense resource, I'm getting a different authorization decision based on who I am. So Sally here is in the sales team. She's allowed to create, update, and delete, but she's not allowed to approve or delete or view who the approver is. But if I go and look at someone in a different team, they have a slightly different set of permissions. So that's kind of how you can interactively see how your policy works. When it comes to the actual policies themselves, I'm going to just load one of these up. We're going to detail in this video of exactly how you define these policies, but we can see we give you an environment where you get obviously syntax highlighting, you get autocomplete, there's full schema support in here, so you get all the kind of tooling you're used to for actually writing and defining policies. So now if I go in, for example, go in here and I go and change one of my policies, so this approve action currently is allowed for this Frank who's in finance. If I go and actually change this policy, this policy is live evaluated behind the scenes. We're actually running a version of Cerbos that's constantly evaluating as you're editing your policies. And you would have seen we've got that allowed decision before, is now denied. I can change my policy back. That's going to update, and we get kind of that result has changed. So you get that real-time feedback loop as you're editing policies. Keen item on you as well might have seen, when I removed this particular rule, we also got some tests failing here. So Cerbos, you can do full test-driven development. So you can upfront write your specification for your policy as tests. So this type of user should be able to do these actions on this type of resource. This type of user shouldn't. And then start iterating on your policies. And again, inside of the Cerbos Playground environment, we're actually evaluating those policies and those tests directly and giving you that real-time feedback. And you can go and update and change these tests directly inside of here as well. So let's say you've worked on your policy, you've built this amazing environment, and you want to actually test it locally inside of your application. Two ways of doing it. First one, and probably the easiest, is through try the API system. So I'm now going to go and save this environment. I'm actually going to go and log into my account, so you can have your Cerbos environments and your Cerbos Playground environment saved. When I go and press try the API, we actually behind the scenes deploy a version of Cerbos that points to this policy inside of the playground. And then inside of your application locally, you can actually start implementing the Cerbos SDK and pointing it at this demo PDP, we call it. Obviously, it's in big red letters. Don't use this in production. It will be going out over the internet. It will be slow, etc., etc. Caveats still there. But if you just want to try things out in a local dummy application or even a local version of your existing applications without having to deploy a Cerbos instance, we actually do that for you, and we even do some code generation, so you can literally copy and paste for most of our SDK frameworks to get up and running, and even a basic curl request if you're into that also. So there's a lot of features here to get you up and running, give you lots of feedback. There's a lot more we can go into, but this is basically an environment for you to get up and running quickly without having to run or deploy anything on your machine or deploy any infrastructure, and just start iterating and modeling out your policies directly in an online playground.